Okay, so let's dive in. Think about this for a second. An entire village deciding to pick up and move, not because of some, disaster or flood,
Right.
but essentially to give wildlife more, well, elbow room. It's quite something.
It really is. And it happened in Jharkhand, in the Palamu Tiger Reserve. We're looking at Jaigir village today.
Yeah, Jaigir, the first village inside the core area of the reserve to relocate completely. It sounds simple, but I imagine it's hugely complex.
Oh, absolutely. It's being framed as this historic move. More than just families moving house. It's a story about balancing human lives and dreams with, conservation. Wild roars versus human aspirations, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. So this relocation, it was finalized back in 2023, right? They moved near Polpol village outside the reserve bounds.
That's correct, near Polpol. And the implications are pretty significant on both sides.
For the villagers, I think around 160 people,
Hmm?
it must mean a huge change. Suddenly having like proper roads, maybe better schools nearby, perhaps even decent internet access eventually, things we often take for granted.
Definitely. Access is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And then you flip the coin and you look at the forest. We're talking nearly 1,000 square kilometers
Wow.
of the reserve's core area potentially becoming more pristine habitat. Less human-animal conflict, more space for wildlife.
Yeah.
It's a big win for conservation, potentially.
But getting there must have been tough. I mean, convincing people to leave their ancestral homes. That takes years, doesn't it? Building trust, dealing with skepticism.
Exactly. Years of negotiation dialogue. You can't just announce something like this. It had to be voluntary, built on trust, showing people that this wasn't just about the animals, but about offering them a genuinely better future.
And ensuring the tigers actually benefit too, that the habitat becomes suitable for them again. It's fascinating.
It really is. And the Palamu Tiger Reserve itself, it's got such a history.
Yeah.
Established way back in 1973, one of India's first Project Tiger Reserve.
Right, one of the originals. And it's huge, over 1,100 square kilometers stretching across Palamu, Ladehar, Garhwa districts.
A significant area. And a real biodiversity hotspot, leopards, elephants, lots more besides tigers or potential tigers.
So how does the reserve structure work? You mentioned the core area.
Yeah, so typically you have a core zone and a buffer zone. The core area in Palamu is about 413 square kilometers. That's meant to be the inviolate zone, strictly protected. Minimal human interference.
Inviolate meaning ideally no human settlements or activity.
That's the ideal, yes.
Yeah.
Then you have the buffer zone surrounding it, which is much larger, over 700 square kilometers here. That's an area where, coexistence is more the model. Some human activity is allowed, managed alongside conservation goals.
Okay, but the challenge was there were villages inside that core zone, like Jaigir.
Precisely. That's the crux of the issue. Palamu has, or had, something like 191 villages within the entire reserve boundary. And critically, some of those, including Jaigir, were right inside the core.
Which leads to what they call biotic pressure, right?
Exactly. People living their lives, needing resources, firewood, grazing land. It puts pressure on the forest, impacts the habitat, and disturbs the wildlife, especially the prey animals like deer and wild boar that tigers rely on.
So relocation is seen as a way to ease that pressure, give the wildlife some breathing room.
Breathing room for wildlife, definitely. And as you said earlier, perhaps a less wildlife for the villagers with better access to modern amenities and opportunities outside the reserve. It's a complex trade-off.
So Jaigir moving out feels like a really big step towards actually making that core zone inviolate as intended.
It's a huge symbolic and practical step.
Right.
And the ambition doesn't stop there. I understand the goal is to achieve this for the other 8 villages remaining in the core area by 2025.
Wow, 2025, that's really soon.
It's very ambitious. It really puts the pressure on ensuring this first relocation, Jaigir's move to Polpol, is seen as a genuine success by everyone, especially the communities involved.
If it works well, it could build momentum, I suppose.
That's the hope. Success breeds success, making future voluntary relocations potentially easier.
Speaking of success, what about the tigers themselves in Palamu? It's kind of known for being, well, a bit tiger scarce recently, isn't it? Despite the name.
That's true. It's a point of concern. While it's definitely a leopard hotspot, estimates suggest over 150 leopards, which is significant.
Okay, so plenty of leopards.
Yes, the leopard population seems healthy, but confirmed tiger sightings, actual photographic or DNA evidence, have been elusive for a few years now. I believe the last confirmed report was a tigress that died near Betla National Park, which is technically adjacent, around 2020.
So the hope is that freeing up space like the Jaigir area might help bring them back.
That's a key part of the strategy, by reducing human disturbance in the core, and specifically the plan is to develop the old Jaigir village site into grassland
Ah, grassland. Why grassland?
to boost the prey base. Grasslands support higher densities of animals like deer and wild boar, which are the main food for tigers. More food, hopefully, means the area becomes more attractive for any tigers passing through or could support a returning population.
Makes sense. It's all connected. And this whole relocation thing, Jaigir is just one example, isn't it? This is happening elsewhere too.
Oh yes, this is a nationwide challenge. Figures suggest there were, or still are, something like 591 villages, with around 65,000 families living within the core areas of India's 54 tiger reserves.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And while relocations have been happening since Project Tiger began, maybe 257 villages and 25,000 families moved since 1973, it hasn't always gone smoothly.
Right. I've heard about issues in other places.
Yeah, there have been reports from reserves like Similipal or Sariska, for instance, alleging problems like coercion or communities being moved to places without adequate facilities, broken promises.
Which really underscores why the Jaigir situation, emphasizing the voluntary aspect and communication, is so important. Getting it right matters hugely.
Absolutely. Volunteerism and ensuring people are treated fairly, given proper compensation and support in the new location, that seems to be the key difference maker. Jaigir could be a positive example if that holds true in the long run.
But even with Jaigir's successful move, Palamu itself still faces some pretty big hurdles, doesn't it? It's not like this one move solves everything.
No, definitely not. You've still got persistent threats, like poaching, which is always a concern in these areas. Then there's the complex issue of Naxalite insurgency in the region, which impacts patrolling and management.
And staffing, I remember reading that's been an issue for a long time.
A chronic issue, apparently. Staff shortages, particularly at the forest guard level, have been a problem since the 1990s. That makes effective protection very difficult. And, of course, funding.
Ah, yes. Money. How much are we talking about?
The figures mentioned recently were around Rs 26 crore total, with about 21 crore from the National Tiger Conservation Authority, NTCA, and 5 crore from the state government.
26 crore. It sounds like a decent chunk, but when you think about relocation packages, habitat restoration, anti-poaching, salary...
Exactly. It gets stretched thin very quickly. And a critical piece moving forward, tied to that funding and the success of Jaigir, is monitoring the new settlement near Polpol.
Making sure it actually becomes that model village they talked
Yes,
about?
nicely. It needs to deliver on those promises, the better roads, schools, healthcare, livelihoods. If Polpol thrives and the Jaigir community feels genuinely better off, it validates the entire approach. If it falters,
It could undermine everything. Future relocations, trust, everything.
it really could. So the follow-through is just as important as the initial move itself.
So wrapping up the Jaigir story, it does feel like a glimmer of hope, doesn't it? A potential path for balancing conservation and people's needs in these incredibly important wild spaces.
It definitely offers hope. It shows what might be possible with careful planning, community involvement, and crucially, volunteerism. But it's just one step.
Yeah, it highlights that this isn't a quick fix. It's going to take sustained effort, real commitment, consistent funding, and constant adaptation, not just in Palamu, but across all these reserves facing similar challenges.
Absolutely. And it leaves you wondering, perhaps, about the long-term resilience of both these ecosystems and these communities.
Yeah.
Can we truly create spaces where both thrive alongside each other? Jaigir gives us a case study, but the final chapter is still being written.